The title of the story is, in Urdu it's called Boo, and in English it's Odour. It's about a girl from a Ghatan tribe, and she's referred to as the girl from the Ghatan girl. So just to say that the Ghatan girl there's a tribe which is referred to. It was again the monsoon season. Drops of rain had begun their patter on the leaves of the peepal tree near the window. Inside lay the teak bed on which a Ghatan girl had slept with Randhir. Some hours earlier, he had seen her under the tamarind tree, sheltering from the downpour. She probably worked in the rope factory nearby. Randhir had watched her from his balcony, where he had come for a change from the mustiness of his room. He had cleared his throat and coughed. This had attracted her attention, and he had beckoned her to come up. When Randhir had beckoned the Ghatan girl, he did not have any intention of taking her to bed. Noticing her drenched clothes, he had thought that the poor girl might get pneumonia and had said, "Take off these wet clothes, you may catch a cold." She had understood what he meant, though she did not know his language. Red webs of shame had suddenly floated in her eyes. When Randhir had handed her a fresh white dhoti, she had hesitated for a moment, and then abruptly she had loosened her skirt. As the soaked garment collapsed around her legs, she had swiftly covered her thighs with the dhoti. She had then tried to take off her tight choli, which was tied by a tiny knot, almost embedded in the deep and narrow hollow between her breasts. Her worn-out nails had pecked at the tiny wet knot several times, but had failed to loosen it. In despair, she had said something to Randhir in Marathi, which meant, "What am I to do? It won't open." Randhir had sat down beside her and tried to open the knot. But soon he had lost his patience, and gripping the strings on either side of the knot, he had given a sudden jerk. At once the string had snapped, and his hands had brushed over her breasts, which had come trembling into view. Her breasts had the pliancy, the moist roughness, and the cooling warmth of vessels that have just come off the potter's wheel. Her spotless, mud-colored, uplifted breasts had a strange glow and looked like lamps lit at the bottom of a muddy pool. It was the season of rains. The Ghatan girl's soaked two-piece dress was on the floor in a filthy heap. The girl's warm, nude, unwashed body had clung to Randhir. All night she had clung to Randhir as if they were one. They had hardly exchanged a word or two, for their panting was as eloquent as their lips and hands were expressive. All night Randhir's hands had fondled her breasts like the caress of the breeze. All night Randhir had inhaled a strange odor from her body, an odor both unpleasant and pleasant. He had sought for it in her armpits, her hair, breasts, navel, and every other part of her body where it could pervade his nose. He had thought that he would never have felt the nearness of the girl but for this odor, which had penetrated every layer of his mind and had seeped through his memories, new and old. For one night, Randhir and the girl had been fused together by this odor. They had merged into each other and slipped down to fathomless depths, where they had been transformed into pure ecstasy. Randhir was familiar with the odor that had exhaled from every pore of the Ghatan girl's body, but he had not been able to analyze it. It was like the fresh smell of earth sprinkled with water. But no, this odor was different. It was not an artificial smell like that of lavender or other, but something natural and eternal, like the relationship that has existed between man and woman since the beginning of time. Randhir hated perspiration. After a bath, he usually powdered his armpits or used deodorants. It was surprising that he had kissed the hairy armpits of the Ghatan girl many times. Yes, many times, and had felt no aversion. In fact, it had given him a peculiar feeling of pleasure. Randhir had felt, he knew this odor, that he recognized it, understood it, but he could not describe it to anyone else. The monsoons were back again. It was the season of rains, the season of marriages. Randhir looked at the sleeping body of his new bride, flung on the teak bed were her discarded clothes. All were red, marriage red, and scented with henna. But his senses were permeated with the odor of the Ghatan girl. It was an odor lighter, but more penetrating than the other of henna. His new bride, the daughter of a magistrate, a graduate, the heartthrob of the boys of her college, his new bride had failed to kindle his masculine interest. In the dying perfume of henna attar, he continued to grope for the odor of the Ghatan girl, the odor he had inhaled from her unwashed body in these very days of monsoon, when the people leaves had bathed